to the FlagstoneExperts.com DVD on how to do your own flagstone. I'm here with my father, Hans Clausen. I want to give you a little history of my father because it's over 50 years. Dad, you started in the early 1950s with masonry.
Exactly. I served my apprenticeship in Fargo, North Dakota for 4 years. Then worked mostly in masonry, block, tile, glass blocks, and what have you. And then I slowly got into the stone business, doing moss rock, flagstone patios of all types, from buff to red, you name it. And
now we've done probably, of these flagstone patios, hundreds, maybe even thousands of them, haven't we, over the years?
Yes, yes we have.
Since the late 60s and stuff. Now what you're going to be learning on this DVD is not only how to lay it in concrete, which you're going to see on this DVD, but we're going to give you step-by-step instructions also how to do it in sand. It's really not that much different, and where there are the differences, we're going to come in and kind of show them, right?
Yeah, we'll point all this out, and whether you lay it in Portland cement or in sand, the only difference being that sand you have to compact, but any other of the cutting, laying down, and all fairly well follows through like it does with concrete.
And one other great thing about this video is the amount of money you are going to save with this. For example, this patio we're doing right here is 500 square feet. In Denver, Colorado, you can, just for labor we're talking about, not for the materials, you can save anywhere from $7 to $15 a square foot. So you can potentially save $5,000, possibly even more, by just doing it yourself, right?
On this type patio, yes. What you do is, whatever part of the country you're at, obviously you have to pay the same for the material that we do. But the labor, of course, can save you anywhere from the $7 to $15 per square foot.
So why don't we get started? We're going to go on to the next chapter with tools, and that way you know everything that you're going to need to start this job. And it's really not that much, so let's get started.
Okay, let's do it.
We are with the tools and supplies chapter. And Dad, why did we lay out all of these stone on the grass like this?
The idea is, behind this is that you work the irregular flagstone like a puzzle. You try to pick out the most favorable stone that fit onto this patio. Around the step, next to the house, on the very edges, you want the straight cut pieces that you see there. And then you begin fitting the pattern in. The more you can find the right type stone, obviously the less cutting you have to do.
Got done with taking a look at the stone. Let's take a look at some of these other supplies we're going to need, or actually say tools. Obviously, Dad, you're standing next to a concrete mixer, so they're going to need that. Now, next to the concrete mixer, I'll zoom in a little bit here. We have type Portland 1 and 2 cement by C-Mix. You kind of have an opinion about using better quality Portland. Do you want to explain why?
Well, basically, what you have, if you have Portland, and it is the type that breaks out in alkaline, you're going to have white, sort of a white powder showing up on your patio without realizing that it comes from the cement. So the quality and the name brand cement you want to stick to in order to do a quality job.
Generally, you would advise clients and people to stay away from the Portland concrete from Home Depot or Lowe's or something like that, generally, right?
Not necessarily, unless they carry brand.
Okay. You like Wholesome and C-Mix, right? Wholesome, Holcim, and C-Mix, CEMEX.
Yes, it has worked good for me over the years.
Okay. Let's walk over here to the masonry sand. Now, masonry sand can be different in different parts of the country.
Yes, this is Cherry Creek. It's very fine masonry cement. The quality varies throughout the country. So what you want to do is you want the the best sand available to lay your flagstone down. It adds, once you finish the joints, they come out much smoother.
I'm zooming in a little bit on it right here so they get an idea. It's probably best if they, whatever area they're in, talk to their building supply store or, you know, somebody who handles this kind of stuff.
Sand and gravel company handles
sand and gravel. Now, over here, obviously, they're going to need a wheelbarrow. Wheelbarrow is great for several things. Carrying stone, mixing up. You know, we generally use a flatbed, but if the customer's just doing it one time, can they just get everything done with that one wheelbarrow?
Exactly. And also, if they have a smaller job, they do not need a mixer. Generally, a mixer costs you $50 to $75 for a day rental.
And you would also say, if they, let's say they're doing a 100 square foot patio, they probably could get by without renting a mixer.
Exactly.
And mixers about what, $50 to $75 a day, of course. A small job. Let's come on over and walk over. I just want to show them this two things for the sand patio. Now, if you're going to lay it in a sand patio,
or sand sidewalk,
or sand sidewalk, and I need to make that point that, you know, the instructions here work equally well for a sidewalk. Let's zoom in here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this plastic visqueen. Why do we have that lying there?
Well, you try to lay that down first before you put the sand down. After you have dug out the dirt and you're approximately to where you think you ought to be, you want to lay this plastic down to hold the weeds down if you don't want them coming up through the sand and eventually the stone.
Okay. And then this 2x4, it's a little bit green. It's got a taint of green. I picked this up at Lowe's the other day. What's that for?
That is basically, it's a treated wood. So if you use it and it is in the ground, it does not rot away over years.
So that's the border for a sand patio, which they could also use, what, a plastic border? I've seen it Lowe's, or a steel. Steel is pretty common and stuff. That's something they could pick up at Home Depot or Lowe's or another hardware store for the border on a sand patio. If you're doing a concrete job, they don't even need to worry about this, right?
No.
That doesn't do this. I'm going to walk over here. We're going to start with some of the basic tools. Now, of course, since we are in the business, we are going to have, you know, higher quality tools, but we want to stress to you that they don't have to. They can get, since they're just doing one job, they can get something at their hardware store or Home Depot or something like that, right?
Exactly. If you're looking at these tools, we're looking at a broom. Obviously, you need to have clean surfaces before you lay down your material.
Okay.
Sometimes it's necessary to wash either the patio or the sidewalk down. Then we have a straightaway chisel.
Let me zoom in a little bit on that so they can get an idea.
A straightaway chisel. This is carbon tip chisel. This runs about $100. However, you can get by with a cheaper type chisel if you're doing a smaller job. You do not need a professional type chisel like this.
Okay.
This is for straightaway cuts. This is a chipping chisel where you cut corners or irregularities in the stone. That's perfect for doing that type job.
Okay, the irregularities and on the sides and stuff. That's
exactly.
Good. And we'll show you that.
Round out a stone.
And we're going to show them that in the cutting section of this DVD.
Yes.
So, and then let me go down over here. We got the trowel.
We have the trowel. You need that either for sand or for cement that you put under your stone.
It's great for spreading the sand underneath and the cement, whatever we're doing. Okay.
Yes. You use a shovel to put it underneath first, then you use a trowel to even it out.
Okay.
Then you have a rule.
Let me zoom in over here at the tape measure for measuring, obviously, the square footage of a pad and stuff.
Then you have the hammer.
2-pound
it's
hammer.
about a 1-pound hammer that you need for doing your chiseling.
Okay. And then we also have this plastic mallet here.
That is to be used when you lay the stone in cement. You want to use the mallet to tap it down to where the stone belongs.
Okay. Let's go on over here to shovels. They can get by with just one shovel, right?
Yes, they can. The long-handled one we use it to shovel the sand into the mixer. The short-handed shovel is to put the cement under the stone.
Oh, and one other one I just kind of missed over. Are we advertising for orange juice here, this Tropicana bottle? What's
No.
that for?
This is just to use every time we lay down a stone. We put a little bit of water down first on the concrete so it doesn't dry up too fast. It's advantageous to have water there first, and we use this particular bottle.
That was one of the tips we picked up, I remember, about 15 years ago. And now we're going to go over to a hoe. You know, using the mixer, you can probably rent it for one day. A hoe was a great thing for mixing up concrete, right?
Yes, exactly. And this is the type, and you can use, if you're doing it by hand, on a small job.
Okay.
You use this particular hoe.
And then over here for our cutting tools, this is probably one of our most important. We couldn't do a big job without this great thing, the demo saw.
Yes, the demo saw is used for doing most of the cutting besides the chisels. This particular saw is the steel 510, TS 510. It has done a great job over the years. More than likely you will be able to rent those at your local rental shop. This has a diamond blade on it, which is very good for doing the cutting on the flagstone. You also have ears here to cover because the noise that this saw puts forth is above normal, and you may want to get these. Plus, there is a mask. It's going to be quite dusty, and you want this not to suck it all into your lungs.
We do create a lot of dust, don't we?
Yes, we do. And then a pencil for marking, obviously.
Okay. And over here we have a couple sponges and knee pads and tuck pointer.
Yes, the sponges we use, once you begin laying the stone, you can't help but spill some, not only on the stone that you're laying, but perhaps some around you. As you go, you want to always sponge off any of the concrete that has spilled onto the stone. If you do not, it's exceedingly hard to get off the following day. Obviously, it's very hard by that time. We have some kneelers here, which protect your knees. You might want to get those. And then we have next to it a tuck pointer, which we use once the stone is laid down. We come back the following day and fill in the joints with this particular tool. You can also use a grout back if you feel more comfortable with that.
Okay. Now, normally we don't use this, but the pad back there, the concrete pad, has a few cracks, so I just wanted to show this to you. They don't have to get this kind of expensive ram set, but at Home Depot we see them. They can get a kind of a cheaper version.
Exactly. You can get this particular gun, I think, around $30. And then you pick out the shells and the nails that you need for your particular concrete pad. If you have cracks in it, but overall it's very solid, it's a good idea to get some metal lath laid over the crack that you have, and then go ahead and ram set some nails into it to hold it down on the concrete.
And we'll show you more in the we're going to go over the foundation just so you get an idea of what to look for in your own foundation. Let's walk on over here to the some of these other tools. We laid out a couple things for the homeowners so they get an idea of a couple different methods. We use a transit for measuring the fall. The fall is probably the most important part of laying any pad, right, because of the water. Let's start with the 2x4. Why did you lay a 2x4 there?
The 2x4, if you have a smaller job and you don't have the transit, you can get the same job done by using a 2x4 that spans across your sidewalk or across your patio, and using a common 4-foot level. You lay it on top of the 2x4 and you can figure out your fall with the 2x4. Not having the transit, this will also do the job. It might take a little longer, but you can do the job with the 2x4 and the 4-foot level.
Great. And then we do have a 2-foot level there, but they can just get by with a 4-foot level, right?
Yes, they can. They do not need, the 4-foot level is actually ideal for the work they need to do. And then we have a line there. The line you will later on use, and we'll show you the 4 points on the patio where the line becomes fairly critical in laying down your flagstone in cement.
Great. And coming on over to, I'm going to zoom in. I want people to see when we clean, after we have a job done. This is for concrete. If you have sand, you don't even have to worry about this part. We use, and there's other brands, but we happen to use 600 detergent by Proseco. We're not 100% always clean, so why do we have that?
Well, basically, after you do the sponging, once we do the filling, you do the sponging, and usually you leave a light gray film behind. This 600 detergent removes that light gray film. You use it at about 20 to 1, 20 parts water, 1 part of the 600. Then obviously not to stick your hand into this acid-based cleaner. You have the brush and the handle that you see there, and any tough parts, the steel brush will take care of.
And then one last thing to complete the job and to make it right, we have a little paint roller, and I'm going to zoom in here, siloxane, also by Proseco. We've just had good experiences with, but you know, there might be other brands out there. What's that for?
Well, basically, that is your sealer. This I found out to be probably the best sealer for the work we do. It lets moisture breathe out and doesn't let water in. And if you use some other sealers that has urethane in it, you might trap moisture between the sealer and the flagstone, and it turns into a gray film, and you want to stay away from that.
So it's best to just stay with this siloxane.
Stay with this. We have used it over the years and has given us excellent results.
All right, we're going to go on to the next chapter, and we're just going to take a quick look at the foundation and how to measure for the fall. The chapter for, just want to give you an idea quickly of the foundation here, and you know, what you might want to look for with your own foundation, or also maybe a sand patio. So Dad, what do you see here with this patio?
So basically what we have a patio here that has been here since 1962. It has a few small hairline cracks in it.
Zoom in here with this.
I do not think they're severe enough to have to worry about overlaying them with flagstone. However, on this lower patio that we're going to also overlay, we have some cracks that are a little more severe. What we're going to do here is we're going to take some metal lath, then we're going to take concrete nails or our ram set. You can do it either way. We overlay these cracks, fasten down this metal lath. Over here we're going to get some more, and we're going to also go over to this side. Now as you're looking at the patio here, this is out of concrete. If you wanted to do this in sand, you would have to take the outer perimeter that you see this patio, and you would have to border it either with steel,
the steel edging,
with the treated wood, or any plastic edging that they have out on the market. This is something that you have to decide which way you want to go. But all of that, again, means you have to have enough fall in your dry laid or sand-based laid flagstone to let the water dissipate to the lower end of it.
And then if it's sand patio, they compacted 2 to 3 inches of sand. They can either rent a compactor or
fashion a 4x6 with a cross piece on it, and then just tap it down with that.
If they have like a small pad, they don't want to rent a compactor.
Exactly.
And then they could save some money doing that.
If you want to make it easier, once you have established the outer perimeter, you can get a 2x4 that reaches your outer perimeter, and then you have a way of judging the stone that you lay down, that you aren't too high or too low with it.
Okay, let's go on to the next chapter of probably the most important, cutting. Cutting flagstone, we're going to start with our first stone. And Dad, you have the
chipping tool here, and what I'm doing is I'm adjusting the joint so it is fairly even next to the house. As you can see, the chipping tool does just that. It takes little bites out of the stone so I get a even joint here. I'll take the pieces out of here.
And that way we can have a
I can slide
nice
the stone, tap the stone on the end there, David.
So now I'm going to tap it over.
Tap it against the house. So right there, you can see we have a nice joint for that. From this point on, we'll get another stone. We'll get this out of the way. I'll bring this stone here. And as you can see, this is straight on one side. Now I'm going to put that up against the house here. I'll slide it back a little. I have an even joint against the house now. Then I take a marker.
Okay.
And mark it along here so it fits next to the stone. And at the same time, when I make my cut, I'll take this unevenness out of the stone so the following stone will fit in here smoothly.
Now, speaking of this joint going up against the house, sometimes you advise clients to, and that's the only joint you do that with, is to have caulking back there sometimes.
Have an expansion joint there.
Because sometimes the patio will like to expand away from the house. Just wanted to throw that little quick note in. Now, when we do these irregulars, our goal is to just get one side that matches so we can avoid some cutting. Is that right?
Exactly. You're trying to get as many sides to fit as possible. Generally, if you get two sides to fit, you're doing rather well.
But most of the time it ends up being one. So like with the second stone, it had a straight edge that went against the house. So we put that straight edge up knowing we're going to have to be cutting on two other sides, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So we'll show the continuation as we go along.
Okay.
We'll go ahead now and cut this stone with a demo saw.
Now we're going to cut this with the demo saw, and you'll get a chance to see what's going on. We have two sides cut. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on so that you can see it. We cut this edge down over there on that side right there, and then we cut this edge here. So we have two cuts, and you can see that we now have a nice natural joint between the first stone and the second stone. We got the two sides cut in on that second stone. Now we have a third stone coming in. It is a triangle. Why did you pick that stone out, Dad?
It fits into this pocket fairly well. All I have to do is mark this over here, cut this corner off with a demo saw or with a chisel, whichever, and then for the most part the stone fits nicely into this pocket.
So you basically got a small cut out of a big stone by just fitting in the right piece in the right place.
Exactly. This is what you want to do while you still have lots of choices. Later on, you may not have the choice, and you have to use the material that's left.
And one other thing I just want to point out, we made some dust and some rocks on the pad here. We're going to make sure to sweep that off because underneath it's very important you have a clean concrete surface so that the concrete when it goes under the stone, it sticks better and stuff. Also, under a sand patio, you wouldn't want all these pieces and dust under that as well.
Exactly.
Notes on when they do cut with a demo saw. What should they? Where can they cut? And
well, basically, if you're cutting on a grassy area, to stop the hot exhaust of the demo saw burning your grass, perhaps you want a little old piece of plywood to do your cutting on. If, like we're doing here for the most part, we're cutting on existing patio, it is not so critical. You can do that as long as you don't cut too deep into the old concrete here.
Okay, and also when you do set it on the mortarboard or on the plywood, that's because the exhaust will get to the grass when it's running, and it can kill the grass.
Exactly.
But when they do cut in the grass, they can actually cut a little bit in the grass. We've done that a lot. Cut the grass, and the grass goes right back, doesn't it?
Yes, it is almost like aerating the grass. You don't have to worry about it not growing back. But obviously, you don't want to do too much of that.
Okay, let's observe a couple more cuts. They don't always have to cut completely through. They can cut,
No.
what, about 3/4 through?
Either half or 3/4, and then tap it with a hammer, and that works just fine.
And that way they can avoid some time on cutting with that.
Exactly. And what you want to do, the pieces that you cut off, the triangular shapes or whatever shape they are, save them to the very last, because there will be some areas where you can still use those triangular cuts.
Here we have our fourth piece. You're kind of kicking around a little bit. What do you like about this one?
I'm trying to follow these two sides, and it looks like, other than taking a chisel and cutting a little bit off here, all I have to do is cut the outer edge, and then the stone fits very nicely into this particular area.
Now, at one point, when you cut the outer edge, it's okay for us to cut it there because it won't show, right?
Normally, you want to leave natural edges. Even after I cut it with a saw, I will put, with a chipping chisel, I will put a natural edge on there.
Oh, okay. So when we cut that outside piece, see, he'll use the...
I'll cut it about a 1/2 inch bigger. As you can see, I'll take this out of the way. I will cut roughly along there so it meets up with this stone. I will cut that with a saw, and then I will chip with a chipping chisel to make it and give it a rough surface.
That's the pitching chisel, right?
That's a pitching chisel, and then it has a natural edge to it and not a saw cut edge.
Because we've been on many jobs where so-called professionals have actually used a saw cut that's shown on the outside, and that's just completely unnatural. It doesn't look good, does it?
Exactly.
Okay, so now you're going to see how we just cut one edge. You see how the piece fits in there, and the joint over here still looks natural. That's what's nice about this irregular flagstone, is that it can be kind of bent joints, and the concrete, when it gets filled in, it looks really nice and really natural and stuff. So Dad is going to cut that with a saw. Moved it around so it's easier to chip with, and also to see. He's going to take the pitching chisel or the chipping chisel, and he's going to come by, and he'll just chip it out, just lightly along. Now, how are you tapping that? What would you recommend?
I tap it very lightly.
Okay.
And I hit it first from one side, then I will take the stone, turn it over, and hit it from the other side. Because if you get too much of a bite, you have a tendency to undercut the stone.
Okay. Now, how do you angle that chisel? Let's take a look to see how you angle the chisel.
I'll hold it fairly straight with a slight angle toward me.
Okay.
If you take it and you turn it too far the other way, you will undercut this whole edge and take out a big chunk on the bottom.
So by doing it the way you're doing it now, you can avoid taking out too much.
Exactly, and still get the job done. As you can see, the natural edge is now appearing with chiseling this.
You can see we're
The
taking...
only thing you have to watch is your ends, because sometimes the stone will chip on you in the outer part. As you can see, there's a little bit of cut edge left. I'll try and rough this out to a point where it looks natural. You have to be careful not to split out the very end. There. Now we have the natural
So you hold
edge. There. Now when you look at this edge, it looks like
It was quarried.
it was meant to come out of the quarry. Now we'll take the stone and lay it in here. And as you can see, it fits pretty nicely.
And we have a nice edge there all the way around. You have it on all three sides. A nice edge.
So I'll take this little tip off yet, and this one here, and then it matches each other a little better.
And everything matches up.
So this is
really nicely.
basically the way you need to follow through, fitting these pieces in as you go.
Okay. We'll do one more, and then we'll come back to you at the middle of the
If
project.
you want to cut a stone in half, you take this straight cutting chisel that I have here, and you begin tapping lightly along this stone, not too forcefully, because all you want to do is cut the stone in half.
So
In order to achieve that,
these are for people that don't want to rent a demo saw. Maybe they have a small pad. They want to save some money. They can get a straight chisel, and then they just pound it like you do. How hard are you hitting it there?
medium. You don't want to force things. You want to make sure that you are in the middle of the stone where you hit it more often than the outside. The outside usually has a tendency to break first. So you go back and forth on your cut here. And as you can see, now the stone is cut in half.
And now we have a nice, fairly straight edge, and we did that without even having to use the saw.
Exactly.
And that's generally we use the straight edge chisel for, in case you want to save some money and don't want to rent a saw.
The whole thing depends on how well you have it compacted, and you need to make sure with sand, just like with concrete, that you have an even surface underneath the stone so it doesn't rock while you're stepping on it.
Okay, let's go. Let's do another cut here, and let's just do a demonstration over here. That kind of curves next to these two other stone. What else do you like about this stone?
Well, I like variety, plus it breaks up this joint over here. So what I will do is I will mark these two stones and mark them here, and I will cut this in to the curve here. For the most part, triangular and curved stones always look nice on a patio.
So you're doing that more for aesthetics rather than practicality.
So it looks interesting. And you don't want a continuous running joint for more than 2 or 3 stones. So by laying this crossways to these, I break up this joint here.
So sometimes you're not going to cut the stone you're just laying down. You have to backtrack and cut the stone before there in order to make it look better. And it actually comes out, it makes it pretty easy because those two stones don't have too big of a cuts, do they?
No, they do not. And then in this area, I will use one of the triangles that I know I will have left over from all this cutting and fit it into this area here.
About half this patio done, and taking a look at all these cuts that we've just done with the demo saw and everything else, why don't you kind of explain a little bit of your rationale of how you like to cut in, what you like to do for joints and things like that.
Okay, basically what you're trying to do is not to have a continuous run in your irregular flagstone as far as the joints are concerned. What you're trying to do is place the stones at various angles and mix it up with the big stone and the smaller stone. Anytime you have round joints like you see over here,
let's take a look.
or triangular shaped stones like this one here, it makes for an interesting pattern. As you notice, we have big ones here, and then a cluster of smaller ones. Now when we continue this area here, I'll pick up with some bigger stones again to relieve the area where we have the small stones.
So a good principle is to go big, small, and not to have continuous joints.
That's exactly right, and fairly uniform. If you look at these joints, they are fairly uniform, from maybe a ½ inch to an inch at the most.
Now, since homeowners have they may have a tougher time. We've been doing it for so often. If they have bigger joints, is that something for them to worry about?
No. If they are satisfied and they're happy basically with their layout, then go ahead and go with that.
It'll be just as strong, and when we do the tucking in, they'll see how that works and stuff. Now, we've accumulated a lot of dust. Is that something that they should be worried about?
That's something we'll do this afternoon and evening. We'll take a hose and we'll wash this all off and clean off the light coating of dust.
And then by doing that, then under the stone, when we go lay the cement, it'll be pretty clean underneath.
Yes, and also we'll again use water when we put this, when we lay the stone down. We'll put water under each stone to make sure it's relatively clean, and then put the cement in.
And that they'll see next week.
Exactly.
Good. Now, one other thing I wanted to show them, to give the home viewer an option, you're laying here some strip stone in case they have to do a little strip stone in themselves.
Well, basically what I'm trying to do here is to cover the cement edge that we have, because we're stepping down to this lower patio. I want to cover the cement, and I decided to do it with stripped stones. You can also do it by standing up a stone, cutting it the height of the concrete, and then just sticking it up against the edge of this concrete here. But I think this treatment here with the strip stone looks a little more attractive. What you do here is you lay it in medium thick cement, and then you take the joint to set off the stone a little nicer. You'll take it like this with your tuck pointer, and you rake it back about 3/4 of an inch, and that really brings out the stone. Make it so much nicer than if you just leave it flush.
And if they want to do like a little planter and stuff, it's the same concept, right?
Exactly. You need the strip stones here, and then you decide on the size of the planter that you would like, and you can use the same treatment here. The only thing with a planter, you wouldn't only have the 4 inches, you would back it up with blocks, 4-inch blocks, to give yourself an 8-inch wide wall. So you then can cap it off with stone cap, make it look real good, and you get some sturdiness to the planter where the dirt can push out the stone ultimately. By having 8-inch walls, you have a stronger wall than you would obviously have than with a 4-inch.
And the key is to keep it level. And the nice thing about stone is because it's kind of irregular, even a beginner can mess up a little bit and it still looks natural,
Yes,
right?
It hides some of the faults.
Okay. All right. Well, looking good so far. We'll give you an update as we progress along. So we'll talk to you in a bit. Show the viewer, because we do get a lot of these, is how to cut a curved in the stone. Let me zoom in a little bit on this stone, and you can see that there's a curve going there. So what you're going to do first, you're going to cut it first with the saw, right?
And then if I need any adjustments by making the joint more even, I'll go ahead and use a chisel.
And now all you need to do is cut about halfway in, and the chisel will chop the rest off.
Or the hammer, I can snap it off.
Or with the hammer you can snap it off. So it isn't necessary that to cut all the way through, like any of the cuts, as we said earlier. But, you know, especially with curves, you really sometimes can only get halfway through, and then you can knock it off with a hammer.
Exactly.
Right? So we're going to watch that now. So go on ahead and make that curve cut.
The saw. I should be far enough through so it should snap off.
And sometimes you cut a little bit more on the ends, and then it kind of comes off easier.
The ends do not break off.
So you see how that pops off? And then let me zoom in real quickly, and then the homeowner can see we got a nice curve that fits right in.
Right.
It gives a very nice, unique touch to a flagstone pattern.
In this broken out area, we will put a little triangular stone there that you see over here and here. We'll put it in there.
Like triangles there and there. And that way we don't have as much concrete exposed.
Exactly, and it also dresses it out nicer.
Makes it look a lot nicer. All right, well, thanks for the curve cut, and we'll move on to the next.
Crack in the concrete that's a little bigger than normal, and by putting this lath on here, this metal lath, and then I'll take the ram set, and as you can see, it's a nail that has a washer on it. That if it does in fact go into the concrete, it really holds the lath down real well.
Now, if they don't have a ram set or anything like that, you've seen...
You can do the same thing using a 2-pound hammer and some concrete nails.
Concrete nails.
You don't necessarily have to have this.
Okay.
So you can achieve it both ways. It's just a little easier going ahead and putting this in.
Okay, going ahead, you can blow one in and they get an idea. Oh, great.
You see right there?
Yeah, and that holds the whole lath in. I'll get a little zoom, and that way it ties the whole concrete on each side of the pad or on each side of the crack in really tight, right?
Exactly.
And then the stone will hold longer. It's less likely
Once
to
the
rip.
cement comes on there underneath the stone, I think it should hold real well.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
You bet.
The whole pad dry laid in. Let me show the home viewer what it looks like a little bit so they can kind of see that. Obviously, if they look, you can see that the joints are dry. Now that it's all dry laid in, well, what is our next step?
Our next step after this would be to get all our fall from the house correctly to the outside. In order to do that, we need several points, which we'll show the viewer. We need several points to get it all accurate. Basically, what we're doing is we're going to hit that corner over there, This one down here.
Viewing on in the dry lathe stuff, they can make mistakes. The stone don't always have to be perfectly put together, but the fall is by far the most important part of the whole job, right?
Exactly.
Okay, Dad, we're on the chapter with determining the fall, and we're just going to do quick instructions in case someone wants to do it with the sand instead of doing it with the concrete.
The sand, you want to put down 2 to 3 inches of sand throughout the whole patio. And then, contrary to what you do with the patio that you lay in concrete, since you have nothing setting up, which you do with concrete, you can put your 2-3 inches down first, then you can lay down your patio as you go.
So they can do the cutting and then lay each piece at a time. Whereas with us in the concrete, we lay the whole pad and then go lay each piece in concrete. So it's a little different.
Use the line as your guide to lay the rest of the stone in. And then you have an even fall.
The stone, when they lay it in sand, it's going to just come up evenly with the line, right? It's going to
exactly.
It's going to
be just a skosh underneath the line, so you don't keep pushing it up. You want to be a little bit
under
of the line underneath.
Underneath. I think. Anything else about the sand patio?
You start out filling it in with 2 to 3 inches. Then, as you lay your stone, you can put the inch under the existing stone. Obviously, if you have thinner stone,
inch of sand, right?
Yes, and it may take a little more where you have height differences between this stone and this stone. Obviously,
because some stone are thinner or thicker than the other, right?
That's correct. So this is basically the difference: sand versus Portland.
Okay, and now we're going to go into laying it in Portland, because that's what they're going to see on this video, right?
That is the idea.
All right. Let's go on to measuring it for a concrete pad.
Yeah.
A gentleman standing next to you. Who is that, real quickly?
That's my grandson. He's the third helper here. He will do the shoveling under the stone with the cement. And it's important you have one guy mixing, one guy putting the cement under, and I will lay the stone from there. Garrett is the one that really does a fine job with that.
So when people are going to lay this at home, it's good to have 3 guys in the laydown process. If they can do it with 2 guys. We've done it with 2. We've actually even had to do it by yourself. But it's so much easier if you have 3, because one can mix, then one can pick up, and one can shovel. And also the sponging is also important to keep the the little more that spills off the stone, right?
Yeah, and we'll show the process. We'll show you a part of when we lay down what's necessary to do it correctly. What we have done in the meantime, we have established 4 points on the house.
Okay, let me, I'll zoom in over there. So I'm going to back up a little bit so the home viewer can see. Let's go to the one over here on the left first.
Okay.
So
we have established 2 points over here. Those 2 points are at 4'7". Then we've gone to the lower side.
So let me just back up a little bit. The 4'7", you want those 2 stones that I'm showing right there to be level with the house. So those 2 are going to be level, and they'll be level from the house. Now you're going to go over to this stone over here in the corner.
That's right.
Okay. I'll zoom in. That stone right there.
The far corner.
The far corner.
We went And right here on the step area, we have the same height factor.
Okay, there's a step area.
As well.
Now, well, what length do you have the step, the far corner? They're at 4'10", right?
So we have basically a 3-inch fall on this particular patio, which is what you need.
Now, just so that in case they don't know, with the transit, you want a higher length, a higher mark means
lower part of the patio.
Means a lower reading. So that's why this part over here is 4'10", and the part over there that's actually higher is 4'7". Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then let me go over here to the right part.
And we set 2 stones over here. They are the same height as the ones against the house on the left side.
Okay, so the one over there, I'm zooming in right there, is level with the one over here to the right. They're all laid in cement already. We put cement under it just to make sure they're level in cement. Is that right?
That is right.
Okay, then now this corner over here is 4'10". Is that right? That I'm zooming in?
Yes.
So everything has got a 3-inch fall, and then all we need to do when we lay down, which will show the viewer, is how to keep the stone level with the line. Is that right?
That is it.
Okay, and then I know this is kind of a complex pad we're doing, and a lot of you at home don't have as complex pad. So we're going to re-show you on this lower pad that's just a square, and we're going to do that with a 2x4 and level, so they know how to do it, real simply and stuff. So we're going to go on. The next part of this is going to go on to laying it down. So let's do that next.
That's fine. Let's go for it.
Now we're going to, it's time to do the mixing. So we get the concrete underneath the stone. What consistency of masonry sand to Portland type 1-2 cement do you like?
Well, basically, what I try to do is we'll put 1 full bag into the mixer, and then we'll add 20 shovels of sand. I already have 1 bucket full of water in there.
So that's a 5-gallon. Let me zoom in on that.
5 gallons.
Use a 5-gallon water, roughly.
And then you want to add to it as needed. And then we'll show you when we dump this mixer into the wheelbarrow to kind of show you the consistency of the cement that we like to put under the stone.
Now we're using a mixer because we have a 500 square foot pad. If someone has, let's say, a 100 square foot pad, they can probably avoid renting a mixer by doing with a hoe, which we'll show them tomorrow. Is that right?
Yes, we will.
Okay, so if you want, go on ahead and start up the mixer, and then so they get an idea. Usually it goes pretty quick. You can rent these for about $75 a day, or you check your local rental office. Okay, so that started up. You'll put the bag in, about 1 bag of Portland type 1-2 cement. We got that in with a 5-gallon bucket of water. You want to make sure you have that 5-gallon bucket of water in first so you don't lock up or jam up the mixer. It goes in pretty well like that, and then he'll shovel it in. He'll shovel in about 20 shovels, and as simple as that. The mixer does everything else for you. So we'll come back to you when it's done, and we'll show you the consistency. Hopefully you can hear me right now. There's how it's mixing. That's about the consistency we want inside the mixer. And it just turns around and does all the work for you. On a big pad, you really need a mixer. How long do you let the mixer run for, Dad?
Depending on the material, I would say 5 to 10 minutes will give you a good mix, and then you're ready to dump it.
So you just pull it out like this, dump it into the wheelbarrow, and it comes out pretty smoothly. Pretty fairly easy. And we just usually dump a half a batch so that it won't be too heavy. Is that right? For, you know, when you're wheeling it over and stuff. We got that batch mixed up. We have a half batch here. I'm going to zoom in on that. And what would you say with the consistency?
Right now, this is very good for Flagstone the way it is now. It is very workable. It is soft enough so the stone lays on it, but not so soft that the stone squeezes down. After you tap it, this here consistency is about what you want. If it's too soft, the stone will push down too far and you won't be able to hold it up there.
And it's a little bit stiffer than maybe you would lay bricks with?
Yes.
Okay.
That is.
All right, let's go on to the next chapter of actually laying these stone down. Okay, Dad, now we're going to lay down some cement under the stone. You were holding the stone up there. You just peel that off to the side. Now, the first thing that, I mean, we discovered this about 10 or 15 years ago. A really great trick that a lot of masons don't use is you actually pour water down, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
The reason being that, especially in the summertime, you don't want the existing concrete sucking out the moisture out of the cement right away. It has a tendency to shrink. By doing it this way, you get a much better bond between your cement and the existing cement.
So it's always good to have a little orange juice can, and they can just dump a little water in.
Exactly.
Now, Garrett's going to come over, and here's where it's great for the third man, because one can be mixing, one can be shoveling, and then the other's laying. So then you spread it in with a trowel like that, and you tuck it in a little bit under the stone, you spread it out. Now, depending on your measurements with the transit, that determines how much mortar you're going to put under there. Is that right?
Since we're a little thicker in cement up against the house to get our proper fall, we have to use a little more here than we will have to use as we're going down toward the lower part of the patio.
And we'll show that with a line in a minute. We'll show the viewer a few of these stones that we do.
Now, what I'll do is I'll tap it down into the cement, then I'll get my line, which I have on the lower part of the patio.
So you have, that's where the edge is, the lower part that we've already laid in cement. And you always keep the line tied with rock, so then it's easy for you to just gauge it yourself, right? And you come around, you see the line there. I'll view in a little bit here. See the line, how it goes level across the stone back there, and then the line comes across. And now you're looking for the line to be...
As you're coming down with your line, as you're coming down...
Okay, let me, I'll get your hand there. Okay, so the line comes down.
Coming down with the line, you want to make sure that the line touches even on the stone. Then you know you have the proper fall to the lower part of the patio.
So that line comes down just even. You want to do it one more time so they can see it?
Yes. Coming down just like this.
Let me...
touches even.
Okay, I'm going to zoom out. So you've just come down just even so the line will...
touch on the stone.
On each point.
And then you know that you're having the proper fall. Now, not only do you do that going down, you also do it to the stone to my right to see if this, Garrett is going to hold it on that stone there. And I'm going to bring it down.
And once again, excuse the shadows again.
You will see.
Okay, so Garrett, when Garrett came down, the line was level, and then over here.
Over here, I have to tap it a little bit, and now the line comes down properly. Now what you have is, you know that this particular stone is going down
straight
to the lower part,
okay,
and it is straight and going in this direction. So you always double check yourself on the down run as well on the level. We're going to go to that stone over there next.
Okay.
And this stone here should be level with this.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and lift that one up so you can get an idea. You take, you have a little pick, and you just pry the stone up so it's easier. And all
tuck pointer.
Oh, you take a tuck pointer.
That you use later on to fill your joint is ideal for prying under the stone and lifting it up. Then, as you lift it, Garrett will come with a couple shovels of cement.
You poured the water in already. He comes in with a couple shovels. And you spread it out again with the cement. Now they can just set the stone up. They don't have to like set it to the side or anything, right?
No, they don't. You save yourself extra work by doing it this way. Garrett, I need a half a shovel more for here since we have a little more cement here on the upside. Now, what I'll do is I'll lay it down on the cement, making sure we're slightly above this one. Since my 4-foot level can reach this stone here, I will use the level to do that, what we did with the line here. When the 4-foot level doesn't reach to the next stone, we always use the line.
I see.
Then you come over here and you angle it, and what you want to do is you want to snug out your stone. What I have here is I can feel that the stone, give me a good half shovel more. The stone is just sitting there. Ideally, you want it to squeeze all the way around a little. And in order to achieve that, you can't just lay the stone lightly on the cement. Ideally, you want to have it squeeze out a little bit on all the sides. Then you know you have achieved a real good bond between your material, the concrete. Now I do the same thing again with the level. I am level across there.
Okay.
As you can see, I don't know if you can see the bubble.
Let's see if I can zoom in.
Level.
Okay, we got a level bubble there.
Then I'll go over to this stone here.
Let me zoom out.
I just need to tap it a little bit on this end. And then I check it over here. We're there. We're again level, double checking. This stone is set, and it is set nicely and solid in the concrete.
And that plastic mallet is just great for a little bit of tapping. So you know you got a little bit fall going down, and it's level against the house.
Yes, you can see on the bubble again.
Let me zoom in on the bubble.
Probably, if I lift the level, it looks about 3/16 of an inch fall in this 4 feet.
And that will get us our 3 inches going all the way down
on the end. Exactly.
That we have over there. Now, one other important thing that a lot of people forget to do is you invariably, between bringing in the shovels and moving things, we make a little bit of a mess. What do we always have with us, close to us, when we're laying these stones down?
Basically, what we're doing is we're having a sponge and water. As you can see, there was a little bit.
Do you want to just show them how you sponge that off? So we got a little bit here, and you always get some. I'll zoom in. You can see that little gray. And if you don't get it off now, it's so much harder a couple days later with a steel brush. So we just lightly, very lightly, and to do it lightly, we just put a lot more water on it, don't we?
Yes. And there you can see cement is gone, and we're ready to lay the next stone.
So here we go.
Give me a couple shovels.
So, and you can see Dad just tilted it up, so you don't have to set it aside. You just tilt the stone up. Here comes Garrett again with the
cement.
With the cement again, the Portland Type 1-2 cement. Spread it with the trowel.
It is. You want to get it as even as possible underneath your stone,
so that there's concrete touching everywhere under the stone.
Exactly. Give me a good half more. After a while, you get a good feel for how much you need under each stone. It is, I have to get a feel for it too as I go along. Right there. Now, I'll bring it down.
Okay.
And again, we're sitting all above the surrounding stones. Then you know you can wiggle it down a little.
And you want it a little bit above, so then you know, like you said, you can wiggle it down, you can pound it, and that really sets it into the Portland.
Now, I'll take the
plastic mount.
the level, go and bring it even. So, right there is where we're touching just right, all the way around. So this is...
So if I zoom in on the bubble there, where you have it,
and
let me...
you see where it's going downhill?
It's going down just a tad, which it'll do, and it's a tad on each stone, which eventually gives us our 3 inches. It's going a tad down, and
right.
it's pretty well, because you know it's going up against another stone, that it's going to be even with going in the other direction towards this way, right?
Yes. And we had a little triangle in here. You always set your little triangles after you have set the big stones. If you do it before, the big stones have a tendency to squeeze the little one out of shape. So you do it just like that.
Little triangle after the big stones and stuff, and they sit right in.
Where we have gotten some cement on here.
Okay.
I'll take the sponge and take it off. We'll take the whole stone here.
Just lightly, you don't have to do it hard. It's a little bit harder tomorrow with the sponge, but you got it all off. The stone's clean, because the rule is you keep the mortar in the joints, not on the stone, right?
Yes. You are so right.
We've been on a lot of jobs where we see just the opposite, don't we?
They're all smeared up. Now what I'll do is I'll continue going along the house, because we want to get the upside taken care of first.
So we're going to go along here. Why don't we do one more stone?
Okay.
So they can get an idea.
The water out of the way. We'll take this one here. Garrett, we're going to need 2.5 shovels, I'm sure, under this one.
So you notice the triangles, we're going to do those afterwards, the little ones. We'll lift the big one up. You just set it up like that.
Put some water underneath.
Water underneath.
And bring the cement here, Garrett. Put it in.
And once again, I do apologize for these shadows. We're working in the morning, we got the sun on, but I think you get the point. You can see what we're doing here.
Give me another shovel besides that one.
Okay, and like we said, you'll get a feel for how much mortar you have to go on. And once you do 3, 4, 5, then you get an idea kind of how much you'll need as you go along. As you notice with this one, we know it's a little thinner stone, so we're going to need more mortar underneath. And that's kind of the nature of this job. You know, you have irregular stone, so sometimes you need more cement than...
Depending on the thickness of the stone, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So now we'll lay this down. Yes, that should work out good. We're a little bit above all the rest of the stone again. We'll take the level, lay it there.
Okay.
Now I'll come across here to this stone, and we just need to touch it lightly. We should have level, which we are pretty close, under this end. All of this seems to work out just fine.
So you get, once again, you got it to, let's show them where the level is level up against the house. I'll zoom in on the bubble so they can see that
there it is.
It's perfectly level there, but then going down, going the other way,
over this way,
we're going to have just a slight.
You see where the bubble is about 1/8 off center.
A little bit off center. And that's what you want about for each stone.
Just to make sure, we'll take the line that we have here and bring it over here.
It's tied on over there with some stone on the end. I'll zoom in on that so they can see it once again. The line's coming down.
That is mainly for convenience, so you can also have somebody hold the line for you back there, but I find it more convenient by just putting the stone there.
Okay.
And I always have it ready. And again, as you notice, as we're coming down, we're coming down evenly. It touches this point and this point here. There might be just a little smidgen here. There, I think we're just fine. Oh, just fine.
So they just bring it down, and as long as it touches evenly across the stone, the line.
And then I double check this way, and we're fine. If you're looking at the bubble,
let me zoom in.
It is perfectly level at that point.
Yes, it is. It looks nice. And so we got it with the line. Everything's good with the line. We got our stone to the side.
Now we'll set this one triangular one, and then I'm going to have Garrett sponge this a little.
So I'll zoom in a little bit in on the triangle.
Garrett. Bring it over here. Garrett, put it right in there.
And sometimes you can either just shovel it off with the trowel, the mortar, so it just goes right in. You notice we make a little bit of a mess there. You know, you can never avoid the mess. That's why we do have the sponge. And then you just set in the triangle right in there like that.
Squeeze it in. Make sure it's all even. Bring your level across, and we're even there. So that's fine. Now, Garrett, take the sponge and sponge this for us.
And he'll sponge especially these triangles, you want to sponge very, very lightly. Use a lot more water because you don't want the triangles to be shifted down.
Or pushed down.
So Garrett will come by and he'll use lots of water. And then he comes and he gets all that excess mortar off. Make sure the stone's nice and clean. And he'll go real lightly over the triangle. And you can see how it all comes out pretty easily, and we're ready for the next stone. All right, should we? We'll check in about halfway in, and we'll give a little update from there. Okay, Dad, we're about halfway through, and I just want to point out there, but from where the house is down to right here, we have approximately a 3-inch fall. And then one other thing we wanted to point out was
when you're laying the stone and you find that you're squeezing the mortar up out of the joints, which you at times surely want to do to make sure that it is
because
set right.
You invariably put a little bit too much cement in, right?
So then what you want to do is, so you have room to fill later on, take your finger or a tool like this tool, rake it down, so when you fill these joints, you have at least 3/4 to an inch to fill so it holds tight.
Because if they leave the concrete hang up too much,
then you don't get enough. You don't get enough fill in there, and it will eventually peel out of there.
So make sure that there's about 3/4 of an inch gap from the stone to the bottom of the concrete or the cement that we laid.
Exactly.
All right.
That's what we're after.
Okay, we'll check back later. The upper pad done, I'll just kind of scan over that real quickly. A lot more complex of a pad to kind of, or a patio to, put in and lay out and figure out the measurements in the fall and stuff. But we have this lower pad, I'll kind of scan over this here. It's a simple rectangle over here. Now let's explain, since this is basically a simplistic version of what the viewer's going to do with their patio, and we're just going to do it with the 2x4 so they can know how to do it with 2x4. First off, you have what, the 4 points?
Basically what you do here is you try to spot your 4 points.
So I'll zoom in. Okay, so that one's on the corner. That stone, okay.
This one, then the lower one.
Then this one. We've already laid it in cement already.
That's the one we lay with about, on this small patio, we'll have about an inch fall from this stone here to there.
From that
and
stone
that
to
can
that
be
stone,
taken
inch.
care of with a 4-foot level.
Okay.
Then we went over to the opposite side. We did the same thing there.
With that
We
stone?
spotted that
That's
one
at the
there.
end.
And then again used the level like this.
the end
We
one.
brought the level over here, put it down here,
Okay, I'll...
and we show approximately 1 inch fall.
Okay, so they look at the level, they can tell that it's going down.
Downhill and
Downhill.
away from the step.
And away from the step, which is right over there.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we went across here and we made sure that this was level.
And we can see that the bubble is right in the middle. So from this side over here, it's level to that side. However, from this point down to this point, we have an inch fall. And going over here, from that stone to that point, we have an inch fall.
So basically on a little one like this, you do not need a transit. You can do it all with the 2x4.
With the 2x4. Good example of, if they have a smaller patio, everything can be done with a 2x4 as long as they just have it level on the top and the fall. The fall is by far the most important part of the whole project, right?
Get it away from your step. And now we're going to proceed in laying it down, and then we'll show you the finished product.
All right, well, we'll get on with that. Hey, Dad, now it's time to actually tuck in the joints. But before we do that, we have to mix up the proper cement, the Portland Type 1-2 cement. This is a little bit different than the concrete we lay underneath, right?
Yes, basically what we have here, David, is this is the regular cement that we use for laying under the stone.
Okay.
Now what we're trying to do is, by making it a little richer for the joints themselves and a little stiffer, it aids us in, number one, if you have the cement too wet, it's hard to sponge it out properly. By having it this consistency, and you can tell we're drying it up a little, and at the same time making it stronger by adding cement, by using this type, about 2-to-1, you can't make it too rich because then the cement dries up too fast and you'll get hairline cracks in it.
Okay.
So this consistency is just perfect for filling the joints.
So about 1 shovel of Portland Type 1-2 cement to about 2 shovels of masonry sand.
That's right. And by using this, and then we'll show you on the joints how we tuck them in. You can either tuck them in like we do or use a grout bag. But I feel more comfortable using the tuck pointer because you can force the cement into the joints and make it stay in there much better.
And one nice thing with the hoe, if they have a smaller patio or a little sidewalk or something, instead of renting a mixer, they can just mix it up with the hoe like we do there. We've done that with many jobs. We don't even bring up the mixer, right?
No, that is right. So let's go over there and start filling some of these joints and then showing the folks how we proceed with that.
Okay. Okay, Dad, we're going to start tucking in the joints. I'm going to zoom in on so they can see what the concrete looks like. So go on ahead and tuck it in so they can see how we do it. It's real simple. The main thing we like to stress is, right, you got to tuck it in real tight, right?
Yes, exactly. So you fill the joints.
Use a little elbow grease, right?
Exactly. And
Because if you leave it too loose, the joints will break out, won't they?
yes, we are filling it next to the house, and I feel like using a grout bag, you wouldn't get the same pressure on the joints for filling them. However, that's up to you. You can, a lot of guys use grout bags, they like it, and I guess they do an adequate job.
Mm-hmm. We've been just used to it with the tucking. If you do go with the tucking, one other thing we like to stress is we do have a nice cool day out today, but on a hot, dry summer day, the cement will dry up real quickly. They have to sweep that off, don't they?
Yes. As we go along, as you can see, after I tuck it in, I take my trowel and I cut a smooth joint along the house, like this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take the trowel and I drag the cement with me, so then I can see what I have filled properly and what I haven't. Then I'll take the trowel and I kind of go along like this and do the last even filling with the trowel.
See that motor you're moving along, it'll dry up real quickly in the summertime. And it's tempting, we've done that before, where you kind of tuck the dry stuff in, but it can break out joints, can't it?
Yes, you want to always have moist cement going into your joints.
Mm-hmm. So it's be pretty moist. Now we are making a mess, but we're going to come back and sponge it later, right?
Yes.
We'll sweep this stuff off, and if it's still pretty wet, we can sweep it into the joints. But if it's dry, we just sweep the dry stuff off
and just
the patio,
pick it up,
and then throw that away and stuff. And then when we sponge it, which we'll go to in a little while, we usually tuck about half of a patio in, depending on how big the patio is, right?
And how much help they have, David. If they have lots of people on hand to help them fill it in, obviously it goes faster.
Right.
And then you can have, if we have enough people, we'll have 2 people filling the joints and one person begin to sponge when it starts to dry a little. But this,
it can be a 2 or 3 man job, or we've had to do it. You've had to do it alone a lot of times too,
yes,
right?
I have done that. Of course, then you have to break off and start sponging. You can't let it dry too far. Then it's gone, and you have a tough time smoothing it up.
I'm just going to zoom in on this joint. It's over here real quickly, just so they get an idea. That's basically what we want. It's tucked in pretty tight. And one other thing that I'd like you to show them is just how to do an end, because the ends can be a little bit different.
What I do is I usually put my hand there and then make sure that by holding my hand there, I can press down on the mortar and end up having a nice smooth area right there.
The hand is always the best when you do the ends like that. You just hold it in, and it's wet enough to where we can... where it'll stick by itself, and then when you come back to sponge it, it usually is pretty dry enough to where you can just sponge it together and it holds real well.
Once in a while you end up pushing it down, then obviously you have to do it over.
Okay. And then we just throw clumps of mortar around here and there, and then we just drag it with us.
Yes, that's what you use your trowel for.
Okay. Now one other thing is, we're not caulking the joint to the house, because it's an older foundation, settlement's already been there. If they have a newer house, sometimes you recommend caulking just that one joint from the house to the patio?
You can put some expansion joint in there if you want to, and then caulk it. I don't like caulking as well. I know that sometimes if you just use cement, you get a hairline crack next to the house, but I'm willing to put up with that rather than have caulking. However,
because we haven't found caulking that looks that good, have we? We've never found it.
And a caulk joint hardly ever looks that well. And but sometimes it's necessary that you do. With new construction, you should have an expansion joint next to the house.
All right, okay, we'll come back when we do some sponging. We got some of it tucked in. Now you're going to sweep a little bit, huh?
Yes, we're going to sweep this off lightly so you don't destroy the joints or dig into them with your broom. Kind of sweep it lightly. Then we get this stuff here. It's too dry to put back into the joints, so we will pick it up. We will pick it up and get rid of it. because this will not bind together if we put it back into the joints. It will eventually peel out of there. So I'm just going to clean this corner here so people can get a good idea what it looks like.
Okay,
and then I'm going to start sponging.
Now
so after we have this cleaned off, we'll get the bucket with a sponge and start in.
Now this is what kind of, we see a lot of jobs where this isn't done, they don't sponge, but what's nice about the sponge, it gives it a nice polished look, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And what you want to do is, when you're sponging, go across the joints. Don't go a lot with the joints. You do a lot better job by going across like this. As you can see, it does polish the joint. You want to get the whole stone. Make sure that you remove all
of
the concrete that is there. Now, you can also go at an angle across like this, but you can see where it polishes the joint nicely.
Comes out much better.
Exactly.
Now, they don't need to worry. When it dries and stuff, there'll be some sand and there'll be a little gray film afterwards, right?
That ultimately, when you do the final cleaning with the 600, you get off all this stuff. Then you take a hose, and after you put that 600 on, that cleans the light gray film that is left behind. You get rid of that, plus the little sand that you wash out of the joints.
And what's important is that they make sure that the joint is pretty well, just a little bit depressed from the stone, right?
Yes, that doesn't hurt at all.
Just a little bit depressed, and it comes out pretty even across. It gives nice uniformity. And then we'll show them how to clean it then tomorrow. It takes 24 hours. We have to wait at least before.
This same application that we're doing here with these 3-4 stones, that is, you want to follow throughout on the patio, doing the same thing.
And it takes 24 hours to let it set before you were going to wash it off with masonry cleaner.
So there's no danger of you washing out the joints.
Now, one other thing, we do have a kind of a cloudy day here. How long would you suggest the joints have to be sponged and dried in order so that the rain won't damage the joints?
Well, I think you want to make sure that you don't have rain on these for about 8 to 10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
If you should find that there is rain coming, take some visqueen or some tarps and cover up your work so it doesn't leave or stain the joints.
Right. If we
or wash them out.
After we sponge all this, if we see that the rain may be coming, we'll check the forecast a little bit. Then we'll just throw a tarp over the whole pad, and then it'll protect the joints.
Yes.
All right. So like we said, just continue this all the way through, and you'll have a really nice-looking joints that even a lot of professionals don't do, but really gives it a nice touch. And we'll follow up tomorrow with the cleaning off with the masonry cleaner. We are at the one of the final stages of the project. Now we have a little bit of the white stuff behind you. I'll zoom in on and you can talk to it.
Right. Basically what it is, it's the slight residue, the gray residue left over from our sponging. And it is a little bit of cement residue. Now that's what we're going to wash off. What I did here with the bucket, I have about 1 part of the 600 cleaner in there and 20 parts of water. Since this patio is fairly well clean, we don't have to make it too strong.
This is the 600 that's right here by Proseco, right?
That is correct. And
Sure Clean.
by using that, there's less chance of it burning your cement joints or the flagstone itself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the bottom section of the patio where we are stepping down, and I'm going to clean that first. The reason being is if we start at the top of the patio and you start washing it off, you dilute the cleaning on the bottom and you very seldom get it the way you want it. So what you want to do is you want to work from the bottom up.
Okay.
So when we have this clean here, then we'll take about a third of the upper patio and wash it down with the acid, and then take the hose and water and rinse it off. You do not want to let it stand on here too long,
Okay.
because it could burn your joints. So you have to use a little common sense with this cleaning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the bottom, take the bucket there, and you notice I have that brush and long handle on here, and I'll just go ahead and apply this cleaner.
And tomorrow they'll see how clean it really gets
Yes.
it. That white stuff looks kind of scary at first, but this Sure Clean, the Mason Zinc, looks
Yes.
everything off.
As you can see, it already is beginning to take most of it with it. Now this little bottom patio is ideal to show people how to...
And how much longer do you wait before we'd rinse it off with water?
Basically, I kind of take a section at a time. This is about as big of a section as you see on the lower part that I like to do without not rinsing it. Once I have this,
Really brush right, then you're going to come by and rinse that.
so here we have it. You can see how it interacts with the light coating of white right here. There. Now we have this. This is about as much as I like to do at one time with the cleaner.
Okay.
Not to take any chances on the acid base burning this.
I see.
Now, what we'll do is we'll get a hose and then we'll rinse
Just
it off.
simply rinse it off, and that's all there's really to it, huh?
Exactly. Should you have, after this dries, and you see some white spots that you didn't get, you might have to, the following day, clean it a little bit again.
Just reapply. And if you have plants around like kind of we have here, you just spray a lot more water and then they should be okay, right?
Yes. That is what you're trying to do.
And that's about it for the cleaning part of it. After this, we just have to wait a couple weeks to put on the siloxane, the sealer, right?
Sealer. That's it. You have to let it cure out. Let the concrete and the joints dry underneath the stone as well as the joints going through here. And once they're dry, you can apply the sealer.
All right. Well, we'll get back to you then. Now clean from the acid and stuff. There's one last step to it. And what is that?
That is basically to seal it, to protect it from the climate. Here in this area, you have the thawing and freezing cycle throughout the winter. and it's extremely hard on joints and the flagstone itself. So to prevent and make it last longer, we take a sealer, this siloxane, pour it in a pan, and it's extremely simple. Pouring it in there. Then we take just a paint roller, do like this, and then you spread it liberally onto your stone and material. As you can see, it shows kind of milky and white, but you don't have to worry about that. It will dry absolutely neutral.
And how long does it need to dry for if there's a rain or something?
Well, you don't want to do it before rain. You want to make sure you have 1 day of drying.
Okay.
They suggest, I think, on here 72 hours after you put it on to have it dry. Put it liberally where the joints are, because you definitely want to protect your joints.
Let me see.
And then next to the house.
And that helps.
That helps prevent moisture, especially in the winter, to get into the joints and then expand and freeze and then pop the joints.
All right.
So as you can see, we took a smaller section here, but we're having...
And they just do that over the whole pad and everything is good, right?
Exactly. You usually, with 1 gallon, you can, for the most part, go about 200 square feet.
Okay.
So this patio being about 500 square feet, you would need about 2.5 to 3 gallons.
2.5 to 3 gallons.
But this is excellent stuff. It prevents the moisture from going into the joints and also lets the material breathe after you have put it down.
And how often should they seal?
The best way to test that is every year take a cup full of water, put it anywhere along here, and if it still bubbles up, you know that the sealer is still working good.
All right, let me just zoom in on the sealer. We showed it at the beginning, but here's the siloxane by Proseco. You may want to check with your local building supply store to find out. Maybe there's a more appropriate one for the stone you are. But this is the one we use and we've had great success with.
Okay, Dad, here we are with our finished product. We've got a few more muscles and got our in shape. Any last minute suggestions?
Well, the thing is, try and keep it simple. Start out, if you can, with smaller patios. Don't take on too big of a job. And then if you follow the instruction we gave you and the pointers, I think you're going to have pretty good luck doing things for yourself.
Well, we thank you for being here, and this video doesn't end yet. If you go to our website, theflagstoneexperts.com, you'll see it pull up here in a minute. You can sign up for the Flagstone Times. In that, you will get personal tips from professionals, from architects, designers, artists, in order to keep your flagstone looking great, beautiful, and allow you to enjoy it. So thanks again for being here.
Thank you. We appreciate you watching this.